Welcome to Lykken on Lending, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the mortgage industry. Your host, David Lykken, bringing you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, this show is your go-to source for all things mortgage. Let's get started. This is Lykken on Lending. Now your host, David Lykken.
Listeners, joining me on the podcast today is Stephen Cooley, the founder and CEO of Mortgage Advisory Tools, the number one resource for mortgage technology and services. Stephen, good to have you here, friend.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I didn't realize that you have been recognized by McKinsey and PricewaterhouseCoopers.
I've just done a little work here and there for those guys. And it's interesting that there's projects that spin up and they look for third-party opinions about, especially technology. There's a lot going on. A lot of investors and different markets are trying to learn more about our industry and how it works. And so I've had some really cool opportunities over the last couple of years.
One of the things that I just learned about you that I did not know and that we have in common is we're both musicians, or at least were, and that you were someone that played the piano and sang and songwriter and awesome.
In a different life, I was signed. Yeah, I was a weekend warrior and did the tour thing and had a moment, and it was a life dream. And then you go on tour and you play and whatnot, and then you come home, and I was very broke. And I had my son at the time, I want to say he was like 18 months old, and his mom asked me, "You want to come and help be a dad and buy a diaper and change one?" And I was like, okay, get a job, maybe pay some bills. So
that's what happens with most of us starving artists. We get reality and family comes along and it changes our priorities big time. But I'm really excited talking about some of the things, your service that you have. Real quickly, Mortgage Advisory Tools is a wonderful resource to lenders looking for services, whether it be technology or whether it be services like what I offer. I'm on your website and I want to expand what we do. But give us a little bit of insights. What does Mortgage Advisory Tools do again, real quickly?
Yeah, we are a marketplace, a Yelp for mortgage tech, if you will. If you're familiar with technology, then it's like Capterra for mortgage tech. And back in the day, I worked at the fifth largest non-deposit bank in the country, and we used to have solicitation Fridays. And we would let any Yahoo pitch us, and whether you were building a company in your garage or you were VC backed, we put some time aside twice a month and would just let anybody pitch us. And it would be a huge deal if we bought it. Rarely did we, but we just got to thinking, like, what do companies do that are smaller, that don't get this much solicitation when they're trying to find new tech and resources? And we're like, man, it'd be really cool if it was all just categorized and organized and listed in one place so that people could find stuff. And so we actually bought mortgageadvisorytools.com like 10 years ago. And it just sat on the shelf. And then when COVID happened, I had a very unique opportunity to build this thing. And it was just this almost a lead gen thing for my consultancy. I had 20 categories and 200 companies, something like that. And then it just continued to grow. It's been for almost 4 years, actually, since we launched it. And we created a company. It'll be 2 years in June. And we have just been nothing but fortunate in our effort and in the response from the mortgage community.
Yeah. I'd love to get your perspective when it comes to the problems lenders are facing today and what technology can actually do to solve it. Everyone's looking at technology, but everyone's pretty frustrated with the cost, and are they getting what they bought?
Sure.
I love your perspective and what technology can solve realistically today, in your opinion.
I think that there is a broad range of mortgage lenders, from deposit to non-deposit to credit union, wholesale, in various sizes. You have banks that are really small to a region, and even IMBs that are relatively small in comparison to your top 10 on Scotsman Guide. And they have vastly different needs, And every one of them has a different...
Vastly different budgets, too.
Vastly different budgets. And I think the fun part is that some of these lenders that we don't consider sometimes have the most money to spend on technology, but I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana, they get flown over because we have smaller home prices and maybe less volume. So it doesn't appear that these lenders might be a viable customer, but the truth of it is, and so therefore they don't get solicited. And they don't go to conferences. They tend to not go to conferences. They're not as ingrained in the overall mortgage culture as one might think. But they have a high need for mortgage technology and in various ways. And it's hard to just pinpoint what's the one thing that any one lender might need. But I think that you'd be shocked to learn that there's actually a wide array of challenges that these various banks are up against, depending on what they're doing and what their goals are. No, that's why our resource has been so important.
Yeah. Yeah. You create a new opportunity for the way people shop.
Absolutely.
Now, how has it been done in the past, and what is the solution? What are you bringing to the picture?
I think the traditional technology company's marketing plan, the nucleus of it revolves around conferences. You pick the ones that you can afford if you're a smaller company, and then if you're a larger company, you pick the ones you want to sponsor. And so that's the nucleus of a marketing plan for that vendor. And then you do some email marketing, and you do some social media, and then you have BDR, and you have sales guys. And I think while all those things are incredible, there is a constant flow of inquiry and information education that is required by the lender to truly understand what purchase they're going to make next. And that's where, that's the gap we're trying to bridge. There is a buyer's journey that lenders are experiencing. And
talking about buying a technology here, I want to make sure people listening, the buyer's journey. We're not talking about consumers and buying a home.
Right,
You're
correct.
talking about the buying of technology for the vendors.
Yeah,
lenders that are buying the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So lenders buying buyer's journey is, and it varies. And technology companies will tell you, some of them have really long sales cycles, some of them have very short. But the truth of it is they need as many assets online advocating for them as they can get their hands on. And we are trying to be one of those prevalent assets that will provide clarity and new information and validity to every technology and service provider that's out there.
Yeah.
Who
do you see as making most of the buying decisions? It would seem like the executives are of the company, but a lot of time I'm finding, like in the case of Candid Inc., which is one of our advertisers, it's the loan officers that are driving a lot of it in their case, and they're driving it up and pushing it up the ladder. What are your observations?
There is definitely there's no doubt that loan officers drive technology buying decisions and heavily influence it, because ultimately they're going to potentially be the ones that use it. There's I would love to pinpoint this a little bit better, because I don't think anybody has a great grasp of this yet. If a lender has less than, let's say, 100 people, it very well might not be the loan officers. What if it's direct to consumer, for example? So these business models, these various business models, and the size of the lender and their just overall culture impacts who might be the person that makes that buying decision. Therefore, it's quite imperative to figure out a way to drive information in various forms so that you can reach people where they're at, because you never know who that person might be that is the driver to ultimately help you close that deal.
And the process by which people are searching is, a lot of it has been word of mouth or picking up the phone and saying, hey.
Absolutely.
All right, so what you do is try to create a level playing field by being able to display all the technologies that are out there. And these are people that even are not paying you to do. You selflessly bring products to your website. So it's a great place to go.
Thank you. Yeah, we have 1,200 companies-ish, 80 categories. And so if you serve the mortgage industry, we want to list you. And as a result,
it's a listing service. What you provide is really a listing service. It's a service that some pay for it, and they obviously get more of they're getting able to explain their products a little bit more, and then some of it's just listed so there's awareness. I was impressed with that when I first saw you. You're not just closing it off to only those that are paying you to be on there. You're bringing as many on as you're aware of out there.
If you serve the space, we're going to list you. And so, yes, the vendors pay to upgrade their profile to take advantage of the search opportunities. We just found this out in the last 2 to 3 weeks, but we could probably safely say about 80% of the mortgage industry, and when I say, or lenders rather, have looked at mortgage advisor tools to learn about or make a buying decision when it comes to technology. We see 500-600 lenders a month show up on the site.
Of all sizes?
Yeah, of all sizes. It's crazy.
Interesting. Talk about the buying journey from your perspective. I'm assuming it's based on the need. If there's a pain, you're going to go make a decision faster. But generally speaking, for someone who's switching out at LOS, for example, that is a long journey.
Sure, absolutely. So, how many pieces of information in how many departments does someone have to consume before they make that decision? Right. And how long does that take? So if you've been in the space and made a massive technology shift, you're in conferences, you're in whiteboard sessions, you're on airplanes, especially at the higher levels. It's a massive undertaking, change management to training to the whole thing. And so, yeah, these are significant shifts that have to be made, and you need a lot of information to move forward, especially on a technology that's so imperative like a LOS.
Yeah, and there's some things that would be nice to have, but not got to have.
Sure.
And then there's the got to have. But what of all the things that you see right now as being most searched for or the most in demand services out there, what would you say they are?
CRM is regularly the top category of the month. LOS, POS are definitely up there. Those are our three cornerstone technologies for any mortgage lending institution. Lead gen is funny. I did an interview with a prominent lender here in the last month. And
you say here, where are you located?
I'm in Indianapolis, but we do a series with lenders and we talk to them about just the same thing we're talking about. And I always ask a magic wand question. If you had a magic wand, what kind of technology would you like to see even invented or come to fruition more at your bank? And this guy said, of all the technology that we would like to have, it pales in comparison to just us getting more leads right now.
Yeah.
I was just like,
whatever will generate.
Yeah, so I might want a new PPE, a new CRM, a new whatever, but that pales in comparison to our needs for just simply more leads. And it was just, I thought it was a profound statement of the state of the industry. That as a tech forward organization, they still would just simply like to figure out how to aggregate more business.
Yeah. Is that pretty much universal, what you suspect?
Yeah, everyone's trying to figure out how to, again, we've had all these like cheeky sayings, survive this and until this, or wait until, and so I think that.
Survive until 25.
Yeah, all those stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they're doing it different ways, right? So maybe it's, we're going to crush it, market share, we need more business. What do we need to do that, to facilitate that? Maybe it's efficiency, maybe it's process, maybe it's consolidation. It is interesting to see. Lead gen often does top the category list as well, but they're all, again, based on their business model, working very hard to figure out what to do to crack the code and be successful this year.
What is the most sought after product or category, you might say, of technology out there at this moment? Sounds like CRM.
CRM, but I'll tell you, we have a mortgage market intelligence is a category we developed, which is your analytics, your market analytics and intelligence type technologies. And that is the hottest topic, I would say, of the moment.
Really?
These guys.
What would you attribute that to?
We're in a market share environment. There's only so many loans. And we're fighting like cats and dogs over those. And to find any advantage, you have to understand your market. And so I think that is really resonating with lenders right now. And therefore, they're investing considerably in that space. And where I would say 5 years ago, there was probably only 1 to 2 players. Now there's, I think, almost 10. And all of them have really interesting perspectives and features that are slightly different than their competitors.
Interesting. When you look at the biggest mistakes being made out there in selecting a vendor, what are you seeing and observing?
That's a great question. 60% of all businesses have buyer's remorse 18 months after they buy their technology.
The vast majority have buyer's remorse.
Yeah, 3 out of 5.
Why is this? 3 out of 5. Why is that?
It doesn't meet their expectations.
They oversold,
overpromised. They didn't understand what.
Is it a problem, Steve? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is this a problem of their perception of what it did, or what they were told that it actually did?
Maybe both. And I think that's aligned with when you have a managed expectation in consultancy. When you're working with a vendor, it's paramount that the salesperson is selling something that is going to be considered at renewal.
Right.
Oh, I can't tell you that. But anyway, but this is true. So if they are selling something or a certain metric that they're going to achieve, a certain goal they're going to achieve, and it doesn't happen at renewal, like you've just missed the expectation of the customer. So it's very easy to do. That alignment from all the way from the very first sales pitch all the way to renewal is super important. But cost of management, integration failure, there's a variety of reasons why they experience this buyer's remorse. Not enough information when they bought it, changes in business. But yeah, it's a significantly high number. And it's definitely on our pitch deck as we work the scale to try to help folks improve it. Yeah.
Be a great value to both sides. No one wants to go make a decision, then regret it, then go through a horrible implementation and only just to junk it all anyway. Yeah. And then they're back to what? Starting all over.
Exactly.
So I think, what are some tips in selecting a product? What's a process that you go and like, they got it right?
That a lender got it right?
Yeah. Yes.
I think you have to have a full understanding first of how your technology is working within your business as it stands. You have to fully understand the problems that you're trying to solve and have a true internal understanding from a technology to cost to usage perspective of how your technology is performing before you start making this, just flippantly making decisions about what technology to purchase. And then the vetting of that and understanding of it can't just be the referral of your best friend, but it really needs to be understanding of how they have effectively worked with other lenders that are similar to yourself. And I would want to understand that 2 or 3 times, in fact. And so I think that when technology is highly effective for a top 100 lender, that doesn't necessarily, it's going to be highly effective for a lender that's between the top 1,000 lender, if you will. I think that there's a gross misunderstanding of those things. And therefore, so when they're able to really know who they are, even from a culture perspective, understand their technology, where the values are, where the moat is, all those things, they're able to effectively transition into a new technology successfully.
How many companies have to rewrite their processes based on based on their technology that they acquired? How many people need to reinvent their process when they look at the technology, or should the process should their existing process match up to the technology they're buying?
It touches that remorse thing as well. Again, your understanding of your process is that this could be better. Like that might be what you're aiming to do. There's definitely some technology that's so innovative that, yeah, it naturally does. It's going to change your process. We don't have to do X, Y, and Z anymore. This tech does it. Like we can remove that out. There's the efficiency. There's the ROI, if even. I think that, again, it does require a true audit and understanding and of how your functioning.
It starts with an audit. I mean, what you're saying, it always starts with an audit. What is your processes?
Yeah.
What if they identify a technology that goes contrary to the process, but they believe in the technology? It seems like a rhetorical question. They just need to go change the processes up. But a lot of times they fight it.
Yeah. Do you believe in your process? Is your process? Yeah, I think that's probably happening quite a bit. I think AI underwriting is a great example of that, right? The AI or the underwriting departments in our industry, these are smart folks. They've been doing it a long time. And to say, hey, look, we have a better way, that's a tough sell. And to bring in AI technology as a result of it. But I think that's a perfect example of something that we want to work really well because we know that it will help improve our efficiency, our accuracy, liabilities, and so on and so forth. But undoubtedly, a process would have to be changed as a result of it.
What stops lenders from investing in technology? There's so many choices out there. Sometimes it's data overload. Is it that? Price?
I think that fear is definitely it. I think that we've had a lot of false starts in our industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Understatement. Yeah.
We want it to work. We go head first, and it doesn't meet our expectations. I would say that's a lot of it. You've probably experienced this also in consultancy, right? Where it's the last consultant I had, screwed us over, or they didn't do what they say they were going to do.
Yeah.
I think that very thing is a big part of it. And we've been doing things the same way for a very long time. And quite simply, change is hard. We are conditioned. We're conditioned to do things a certain way. And we have these tech companies coming in going, we're going to reinvent everything.
That gets met with, it sounds good.
Yeah,
we got to reinvent things, but the reality is you got people that have been doing it this one way for a long time, and you're going to meet resistance. How many failures are a result of people not willing to change their process and reinvent themselves?
Maybe a lot. I don't know, but
I think it's a majority, vast majority.
We have to, there's a fun, like, psychological, I don't know if it's a law, but principle, but like that adults only are willing to make a significant change in their life after 25 years old, only when they experience trauma.
Yeah.
So Zoom and the digital mortgage was around well before COVID.
Yep.
Smart home.
Sure was a move motivator to get people moving off of e-signings, and everything all of a sudden took off.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden trauma occurs, and all of a sudden you have this shift in the way that we know we can do things. Here's another fun saying: if I'm not changing, then I'm choosing it.
Yeah.
And so
I'm not changing, I'm choosing to stay where I'm at. Yeah.
But also, here's the other thing, and for what it's worth, these are not just stubborn professionals that don't want to change for no reason because it's easier to paint them as older or whatever, but they're usually also highly successful. Yeah. You're telling the guy that's potentially making millions of dollars personally that, hey, the way you've been doing it, I can do it better. And he's very wealthy and has a very successful business. You have to be pretty audacious. Hey man, I'm rich. I don't know if I need your thing. It's pretty fair. I don't know.
I think the technology is changing. Last question I have for you for this interview today is you must have a unique perspective, having created this platform, Mortgage Advisory Tools, to see what is coming down the line. Is there any new technologies that you think are going to be game changers and move the needle significantly?
You can't help but to keep your eye, of course, on AI and what it's doing. It's quickly becoming more of a embedded no-brainer in every technology. We don't really have AI companies. At this point, most companies are figuring out how to leverage the power of AI. There's a couple technologies that are looking at some micro problems that our industry is having, and AI is absolutely eliminate them completely. So I think that I hope people have not gotten tired of hearing about it, because it is reshaping the way that technologists are looking at their technology and the way that they're building solutions. And I hope folks are not giving up. There's a McKinsey stat that majority, I think it's like 65% of not just the mortgage industry, but every industry will sunset most of their AI projects in 2025. Wow. I think only 13%.
Be done with it.
Yeah, because they're just so tired of the work it takes. And again, it's not meeting expectation. They're not seeing an ROI around it. But no, undoubtedly, AI is going to significantly change our industry and the way that we do business. And it's just about when. But when we're seeing little bits here and there, but we're going to see a wave of it at some point. And so I would encourage all lenders to learn as much as they possibly can about the companies that are using AI in a unique way. It's probably worth taking a flyer on one or two of them to see if they're the truth.
Yeah. Stephen, thanks so much for being here today. It's a great product. I'm thrilled to be on the platform myself. I can testify to the value of it and what it does for us as vendors. But really, the comments I keep hearing is, I would have never found you if I didn't use Mortgage Advisory Tools. So it's a great way for you to showcase what you're doing. Great. Thanks so much for being with us today, friend.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate your support. And this is always a great time. So thank you, man.
You bet. We are in interesting times, that's for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, friend. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending. Our passion is to bring you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. So on this show, if you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, it's your go-to source for all things mortgage. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lykken on Lending.